Duke's Dariq Whitehead entered the season as a potential top 5 pick and one of the most successful prep players we've seen playing with Montverde since he was an 8th grader, but a right foot fracture requiring surgery caused him to miss the preparation and first few games of the season, and though he still contributed, that initial injury and a left leg strain in late January held him back in some ways. But measuring in at 6'7" in shoes with good size and length, Dariq still has appeal as he became a knockdown 3-point shooter, flashed some of the pull-up ability, and contributed on defense. Now there remain a lot of questions and a necessity for him to regain some of his athleticism, but as the 3rd youngest player in the class and someone with his priors, there's still a lot of reason to believe in him as a first-round pick. One of the more impressive things about Dariq's performance this year was his ability to knock down shots from 3, particularly off the catch. He was capable but streaky in high school and developed over time, and though there was reason to believe in him continuing to develop in the future, you still wanted to see it at the college level, and he shot 45% on catch and shoot 3s on solid volume and found a way to contribute amidst the injuries for a team that needed that specifically in the worst way. He did a good job of moving around the perimeter to find the open space both against zone and on driving kicks or opposite on pick and rolls, and he was also consistently ready on swings and did a ton of damage to teams knocking down shots that way. Mechanically, he's a natural jump shooter who likes to shoot more at the peak, and though it's not the absolute best looking, it's repeatable, consistent, and his shot prep is there. Ultimately, this is a great base skill set to have as an NBA wing, and I think it'll continue to be a big part of what he does in the future.
Will swing it. Whitehead fires off the bounce. Here's Whitehead setting and scoring. 33rd three for Dariq Whitehead.
Shooting when he has that much space. A-Shot lost it. Running is Proctor. It's out to Whitehead for 3.
Kansas 2 for 19 from 3 against Purdue. Whitehead.
I'm sure it's working with him. He got to come back to school next year.
Whitehead. Grahowski with a rebound. Whitehead again. And he got this one.
Yes,
Lively.
Yes, man, scoring, but the Southern guys are picking it up.
The way they played, I would not want to face them.
While he didn't show it in the same ways as he did in high school, the dribble pull-up game and upside as a scorer was still there in pieces. He's always been really good at 1 or 2 dribble pull-ups in many areas of the floor, and that continued as he did well attacking the closeout, using his jab series. He had a few step backs and some moments in the pick and roll, and though it's fairly simple and efficient, it was effective. Now we'd still be waiting on the handle and his downhill ability to develop further to fulfill more of the upside as a scorer, but in that off-ball play finishing type of role, he has more than just stationary shooting, and that's a definite positive.
Setting for 3 at the top again and rounded up.
I don't think there's 11 teams in the country playing better than Duke right now.
Almost had it knocked away, saves it. Whitehead will fire.
Whitehead 3.
Oh, are you kidding me? Okay. Can you?
Absolutely
not.
30 doing it. Whitehead again. Rattle.
How much time will he take off and how much reps would he need to get back out?
Pretend to shoot. Whitehead, that's a 2-point shot.
We've seen it. And in the tournament, Jay, we talked about this a little bit in the first half. This is his 3rd 3-point attempt of the season. Long 2 for Whitehead.
Not even close, OB. That is a great team. There's a moniker that the ACC does not have.
Proctor finds him. And a good closeout by Wong. Whitehead.
And you need to be locked in, and sometimes underclassmen
For
or
high-level players to stay at one spot for more than a few years.
Here's Whitehead.
Another 5 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Whitehead pulls up.
2 to go in the quarter. Whitehead guarded by Hutchinson. 3-ball.
Offense, there's so much talent. You know, you don't see either team pressing because the guard plays too strong.
1-on-1 from the mid-range.
Whitehead, the fall away over Howard.
Dariq was also a positive defender for most of the season and had a lot of encouraging moments containing in one-on-one situations and recovering back into plays. He has the size and length to defend a couple positions, and though he's not super active off ball, he made a few plays in help. If we're looking long term, I think he's a solid bet to be at least an average defender with the potential to be much more than that. Now, he still has some moments where you had to wonder how much the injuries were affecting him, but in general, I think he does have a positive outlook here.
A screen, Federico obliges. Burton on the attack. Foul line with 3 on the shot clock.
Every time he turns to go into the paint.
Great job defensively. They should communicate well and help one another.
Taylor on the spin. Elliott, 3 new starters to bring Pittsburgh back to life.
Also, the Diaz-Graham twins stepping into the lineup this year.
Win the shoot-around. Win the first 4 minutes of this game, which they did. However, they've lost the last few because the Blue Devils are on their heels.
Hands up to James over Whitehead, who got a hand on the ball.
Davis.
Whitehead looking good on defense.
Really what Virginia needs is to make a shot. And another steal. Whitehead.
Extraordinary from Duke. Outside of Ellis, they've been able to clamp down on everyone else.
James, the open shooter.
Defensively, I mean, Tennessee only had 27 at halftime.
James will drive long. Whitehead with
Transition offensive team unless it's off of a turnover. There's just nowhere to go.
Federico sort of make up the 5 spot for the Panthers.
Here's Federico.
Uncharacteristic for Virginia.
They've gone about 4.5 minutes since they last scored. Deflection by Whitehead.
It's a skill in itself to be able to keep them in play. Everybody wants the emphatic block.
96 last night.
And then they got to 83 in this one.
And then he did a solid job of making plays for others within the framework of their offense. Now, prior to this year, he had some real tertiary, maybe secondary playmaker upside, and I think had he been healthy from the jump, we would have seen those duties split more between him, Roach, and Proctor, but in his role, he was still solid. He made a few standout plays on dribble handoffs and pick and rolls, but the ball movement and quick decision making, even in transition sometimes, was positive. He had a tendency to telegraph and force things sometimes, but overall, I would have limited concerns about him fitting in and making safe decisions, and then maybe being able to show a little more of the upside down the line, though that would be extra at this point.
Whitehead on the attack. Lively. Candidate for the Julius Erving Small Forward of the Year honor is Blakes. Yes. Whitehead lays it off, and Young finishes the play.
Near the basket with Lively in the game.
And that's where you feel maybe the loss of Vanderplas, right? If that team standing in the corner.
It's nothing more than a crypto. It turned Duke over 10 times.
Filipowski made 4 threes in last night.
Now, moving on to the improvement areas, Dariq's ability to get to the bucket consistently and settle less for the pull-up 2 was one of his biggest question marks coming into the year, and of course the health only made that part of his game even tougher to execute, but he struggled to create consistent looks and angles as a slasher. He lacked some assertiveness and didn't ease any of those prior concerns in this area, which somewhat lower the confidence you have in him adding more as an overall creator, because outside of like that dunk against Maryland Eastern Shore and a couple dribble handoffs here and there wasn't much positive to point to at all. And when he did get to the rim, self-created or not, he shot just 50% on 50 attempts and 44% in the half court. We saw him as a good athlete in high school and against some other top prospects in the NIBC, so moments like him getting hung on a breakaway were pretty telling of where he was at. But in whatever way is necessary, whether it's just regaining that burst or adding craft and comfort below the rim, is going to have to improve.
Now Whitehead will drive it from the wing. Whitehead tries to turn the corner, goes behind the back. Good defense.
Whitehead baseline. It's cross court.
Whitehead baseline.
I was just super happy, very, very excited.
Away Filipowski. He's got Whitehead. He missed the shot. Whitehead, power move. No.
It works its way into late February for sure. Whitehead, hard drive to the basket.
And now for Whitehead. A leader in traffic.
Point guard
setting people up like the day I'm from.
Well, the place is electric down.
An assist to turnover ratio.
I think he learned a lot of. He worked on the thing of Phelps for years.
Duke wants to run. Whitehead in the lane.
Rebound the basketball above the rim.
The players wanted a goal to. Oh! They try to flush it hard.
Speaking of centers right there in America.
Now, breaking.
Overtime loss against Syracuse. Double overtime.
His man rises up in the air to do just that. And a Whitehead on
Evans in the open floor. Dariq Whitehead.
Team went undefeated. Think about who else is on that team.
Elite Eight. Future players at Arkansas and Duke right there. Jordan
Wild shot over Renault, and Whitehead comes down with it.
Defensively, there were times where he just had difficulty changing direction. He had some sloppy closeouts and difficulty navigating screens on and off the ball and turning and flipping his hips against some quicker players. And also, whether it was fully on him or not, the moments of miscommunication and indecisiveness on switches has to get better as well. Now, some games were much better than others, and he was mostly positive on his end, especially looking long term. But there were some glaring plays on his part and a bit of a reliance on Lively cleaning things up at times. So again, healthy or not, there's still real room for improvement here. And then just briefly on the health stuff, he recently had a second surgery to repair the initial Jones fracture that didn't heal properly from August. There was no second incident or break, and reportedly he should be ready to go for a training camp, which is great. And these type of injuries usually result in a full recovery. Now, I understand the hesitation from some given he looked like a different version of himself this year, but at the same time he was able to play through it all and find a niche as one of the youngest players in the draft. Without knowledge of his mentality and approach to the situation, it's tougher to gauge things, but I think there's reason to be optimistic. Not that he'll be this transformed player, but in him regaining what's necessary to have success and contribute in the NBA.
State just runs it down and gets an open one in transition.
Smith. Duke will get a second crack at it though. They're on top five. Mitchell off the fake. That gives it away.
I think for player of the year on the women's side, Aaliyah Boston from South.
The reason Dariq has maintained some level of stock is he has a pretty translatable skill set as an NBA contributor in a role that he's played fairly often in his young career. He has good size, he can shoot it, is unselfish, and can defend at least at a decent level. It'll just come down to the health and regaining some of that athleticism first, and then ceiling wise and whatever he can develop into as an overall creator and shot maker to become likely not the focal point of a team, but an important piece to the success as a well-rounded wing. All things considered, he'll likely land somewhere from the mid-teens to the late first, with a team like Miami being a good spot. Brooklyn makes sense in the early 20s, and then if he does go later, I like Sacramento a lot too. And Indiana and Utah having a few chances at him make it hard for me to believe he makes it out of the first round, unless there's other info that we don't know. Now, it's difficult to compare him to a player when we haven't seen most of who he is. I think smaller Harrison Barnes is a solid look. He reminded me some of Benedict Mathurin coming into the year, but I wouldn't put too much value into these right now.
Halliburton back out to Barnes, 3-and-D guy, throws it away. Barnes with the steal, the hard push. HB taking the contact.
He's got 14 here in the first half.
Harrison Barnes.
Dariq Whitehead has been somewhat difficult to properly rank, but he remains a mid-first round type of prospect for me because of his foundation of size, shooting, and solid defense as one of the youngest players in the class. The unknowns with the injuries and also him missing out on the opportunity to further establish himself as a creator do give more hesitation, but he's still a valuable prospect and one an established team will probably be pretty excited about.